Hope you all doing well. Do you have any questions before we start? Can you hear me? Okay, good. So we started this journey of understanding the businesses from the financial statements. It's accounting. It's a language of business. So we are trying to understand the numbers part and what are the stories behind those numbers. What does the numbers really telling me when I look at the numbers. So that's what we have started with. And I just want to remind you that we started with 5 businesses and we try to understand their earning per share, what is earning per share, and what is the PE ratio, price to earning ratio. That's what we try to understand for those 5 businesses. So basically, earning per share is something you can find it from the income statement. It's a net profit after all the expenses, and um, then you need to find the number of outstanding shares, so you can get them from the balance sheet. You can find the number of outstanding shares, and then you just divide the net profit by number of outstanding shares. You get the earning per share. Price to earnings is basically, price is something we get it from the market. So every day when market opens, participants in the market decides the price of the businesses. They decide the price of Manapuram, Swaraj, Engines, Narayana Hrudalayam, Google, Apple, Novo Nordisk, and GN. So the market participants across the world, they join through the exchanges, stock market exchanges, and they decide the price they want to pay for each business. So that's where we get the price details from. So price to earnings is basically telling us how much uh, money that people are willing to pay for the each dollar or krone or rupee that the business is earning. So that's what price to earning ratio is telling me. So price to earning ratio for Manapuram, when we saw last time, it was 7.49, and similarly for Narayana Hrudalayam, 40. Price to earning ratio is 40. So market is paying a premium price for Narayana Hrudalayam comparing to Manappuram Finance. So that's the difference when you see high PE ratio. Similarly, for Swaraj Engine, we see the price to earning ratio of 16.5. So market, so if Manappuram 7.5, Narayana Hrudalayam for 40, and then Swaraj Engine, they are willing to pay 16. For Google, it's 16. So every dollar that Google earns, participants in the market, they want to pay $16 for that. So for Meta, it's 8.35. So every dollar that Meta earns, market wants to pay 8.35. This was the old price. I think Meta went up um, a bit, uh, not bit, quite a lot after this. So similarly for Apple also went up a bit. Now it's 150, I think. So similarly for Apple, market wants to pay $22 for each dollar that it earns, and Novo Nordisk, they want to pay um, you know 35 crore per each crore that Novo Nordisk earns. And then similarly for GN store, they want to pay 33 crore for each crore that it earns. So this is how you can understand from the prices and price to earning what prices the market is offering the businesses for, and then you can make a conscious decision. This is very important, conscious, not emotional. Many people take emotional decisions. That's where I try to teach you psychology, human psychology, why we, well, what are all the biases we have, how we get into traps of envy, jealous, and social comparison, etc. So you should not in this business of finance, investing, you should not use your you have to be very careful with your emotional part. You have to take a conscious decision without getting your emotions into the picture. You should always use your logical thinking, keep the emotions away if you want to be a good investor in the long run. Okay, so that's what we were been learning, and this is the 5 businesses we talked about. And the next thing I want to talk about is return on equity. But before I go there, I just thought of take a detour and then explain you the real businesses, and try to give you some sense of both when you look at the businesses, they look similar, but the characteristics or the numbers behind the businesses tells you different story. I just want to walk you through 2 businesses, real examples. I just put up the numbers, and then you try to get the sense of what does those 2 businesses tells you when you look at them from the numbers point of view. Okay, before I dive in, any questions? Anything you want to ask? Yeah, Arish.
Yeah, isn't not an Indian company?
DMart?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Indian company. Yes. Okay, so let's take businesses. You see it on the screen. So you see Rima. I guess you always go and do shopping in Rima with your parents, or you by yourself, and also Netto. So these are the 2 businesses from Denmark, and then DMart is from India. So I guess it's crowded, and it became quite they expanded quite a lot, and they are expanding all over India, and it's Indian grocery business, and we have similar business in India called Spencer's. They are not anymore in the business; they got merged. So in US you have something called Walmart. It's a similar to any grocery stores. It's much bigger. In US everything is big, right? So it's quite bigger than DMart or Rema or Netto, but it's the same idea. So we call them retail grocery stores or retail businesses. So I don't know if you remember this business model canvas which we talked some sessions ago. So I took the business model canvas for Walmart just to show you how Walmart business works, right? So let me use just a second. So if you look at the business model here, so we have key partners. So they need suppliers, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, whatever the groceries you buy from the grocery stores, they are being supplied by suppliers, different suppliers. So Rima or Netto, anybody that you think of, they all have the suppliers. Okay, so these are the suppliers, and then they have a cost structure, so they have a cost, and this is the revenue. This is how they make the money. This is the revenue. Okay. So the costs are, they have to pay stores and human resources, people working at the stores, and the supply chain. They put their goods into warehouse before it comes to stores. Okay. Is this making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have why people dropping and coming back. Okay. So then we have key this specific business. They have key activities. They do the inventory control. Basically, they want to see what are selling more, what they need to order more, and they want to manage their inventory. And the key resources are brands. I don't know if you observe, some of these retailers have their own brands. For example, digestive biscuits in Rima is different from the digestive biscuits in Netto. It's their own brand. They have their own brands, and they have the stores, and then they have the storage and distribution system. Okay, so these are the key resources uh, they use. And then the value proposition is basically, convenient for the end user and the better pricing. That's the value that all the grocery stores are giving. And then they have the customer relationship, and then they also sell through different channels. So basically, if you go to physical store, it's called a brick and mortar model, but sometimes you can also order through website, like the these days I think Rima, Netto, Walmart, they're offering online orders, so you could also order through online. And then they have customer segments, so they have mass customers and low income customers. They are price sensitive. They want to always uh, you know they get the low income customers as well. So this is a typical business model of any retail. We took the example of Walmart, but it can be applied to Rima or Netto or DMart, Spencer or Walmart. So it could be the same for all the uh, five businesses. Okay, but now we would get into the numbers to the real story behind those, to understand which one is the real. End of the day, the business model is same. See, cricket is same game. There are so many batsmen, but it's only few are doing really good. Similarly, in businesses, there are many grocery stores, but it's only few grocery stores who really makes money. Okay, so that's how you should able to, you can differentiate them by looking at their numbers. Okay, Arish, you have a question?
Yeah, yeah. So, in Coop has its own company, like like Infitex or Brookston or something like that. They it has its own Coop company, but they still sell other companies' items. Why do they do that?
Because it's a branding. Would you drink any other cola apart from Coca-Cola?
No.
So, so that means I need to keep Coca-Cola available in my store. Otherwise, you would never buy any other cola that I put it in my. If I make my own cola, put it in the store shelf, I would not able to sell it because people prefer Coca-Cola because it's a branding. Would you buy any other, milk than Arla? Maybe, I mean, of course, that's what the Netto and Rima guys are trying now. You can get your own, their own Rima brand milk apart from Arla. But some of the brands you can't replace them because consumers have stickiness. They just buy drinks cola or Coca-Cola. They just drinks Pepsi or they just drink some specific brand. They don't want to just take any other brand and consume it, even though it's cheaper, right? So that's the reason they can't put all their brands. In fact, the interesting thing is all the supermarkets, if you closely observe, I would say 30% of the stuff you see it in the supermarket, it's mostly their own brands. So they have their own supply chains, and then they are that's where they make more profit. When they are selling other brands, they don't have bargaining power. For example, when they are selling Coca-Cola, they may make tiny margins, but they negotiate to buy more volume. So they buy huge volume when the summer is coming. They put it in the warehouse because they bought huge volume. Probably Coca-Cola gives them a better pricing. That's how they make a profit. But their own brands gives them more profit comparing to reselling the other brands.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's go ahead and look at from the example. So I just want to refresh you the business model canvas, so you get the idea how this business retail businesses works, right? So in this whole business model canvas, my focus is cost structures. I'll look at the numbers of cost structures, and then I would tell you the story of Rima and Netto, how those two businesses from the outside they look same, from the number side they totally look different. I want you to feel this difference when you're analyzing these businesses in the future. Okay, so let me take you to the next slide. Oh, I can't do this without. Okay, so now we are talking about something called we talked about cost structures. You have costs, you have fixed costs versus variable costs. Fixed costs, and then variable costs, inventory, and etc. So if you look at Rima or Netto, they have fixed costs. Can anybody think of any fixed costs? Fixed. So, for example, Rima rented out the space in Walking Street in a given town. So that's a fixed cost. No matter how much goods they sell, they have to pay the same rent, isn't it? So that's the example of a fixed cost. And Rima may be using some kind of forklift for offloading, uh, items from the trucks and putting in the back store and then moving it back to the front store. All the equipment they invested in, cash checkout machine, the at the cash counter they use computers, right, to check out the machines, which reads the barcode and then gives the price, and then you use the card to pay the bill, and then you come out of the store with your items. So that's also machinery. That's a fixed cost. So every computer that they have in the store depends on the counter. So if some stores have 3 counters, some stores have 5 counters. Every counter has a cash register, and then the computer associated with, and that computer is connected to some kind of network, and that network is connected to some computer in the background that can monitor the inventory of all the stores, right? So that's a fixed cost. So they have to spend money on those computers, networks, and the cash register. All those are fixed costs. Rent plus any machinery plus computers, any equipment they use to run the store, that we call fixed cost. So typically Rima and Netto, they probably have similar fixed costs. Okay, because the rents are standardized based on the city. Missionary also around missionaries also a forklift, probably they can get a better pricing, but overall they probably have a similar fixed cost. So that's fixed cost. Any questions on the fixed cost? Okay, then we have something called inventory. So inventory is basically when you walk into a store, everything that you see around when you walk into the store, everything that you see from, fruits, vegetable, bread, whatever milk, whatever items they put it in the store, we call it as inventory. So it's a money sitting in the store for the customer to buy it, right? Biscuits, milk, bananas, whatever you see it in the store, wine, alcohol, cola, diapers, everything that you see in any typical grocery store, comes under inventory. It's in the numbers, financial accounting numbers, they call working capital, a capital required to run the business. Okay, this is the working capital, and for groceries, working capital is literally sitting in the shelves. All the money is sitting there in the shelves for the consumers to come and buy, so that they make a profit of that, whatever they sell. Okay, any questions on the inventory working capital? These terms are you hear many terms, but they are literally the same meaning. So inventory, working capital, it's the same. So now let's take an example. So I'll first explain the example of Rima, then we'll go to the other Netto, and then see the difference. Okay. So now let's assume Rima. I'm taking an example of one store. Okay. So we take an example of one store, and then the same idea can be multiplied to 10 stores, 100 stores, or 1,000 stores, right? Okay. So this is another term you need to understand, a replicated business model. Once you make one store working, you can literally make it work for 1,000 stores, because it can be replicable. So you can just replicate the same model that worked in this one store. You put them into 10 stores, then 100 stores, then 1,000 stores. So that's how Walmart has expanded. Now I think they have more than 6,000 stores all over US and all over the world. So they started literally with one store, but then they able to scale up. That's another word you are hearing: scaling up, scaling down. Scaling up is literally expanding the business. So they started with one store in 1950s, 60s, and then they scaled up 1980s a lot, and 1990s, and now they reached to the point that they have more than 6,000 stores all over the world. So basically, if you understand one store, literally you can replicate and understand if it is running 10 stores, 100 stores, 1,000 stores. Okay. So we'll make it simple. So we take an example. They have 1 million inventory. So basically, the one single store, Rema store, with a 1 million inventory. So they have all the items in the store that's worth 1 million. So that's money sitting. So if you are the owner of this Rema business, your 1 million is sitting in that one store, where you expect customers to buy that inventory, whatever the milk, bananas, whatever you are selling through that store. And then once that inventory has been sold, you will make a profit. Okay. So I put inventory turnaround cycle is 5 days. So what I mean by this is, literally, I'm assuming Rima is able to sell all their inventory in 5 days. Okay, bananas, milk. So they every 5 days they have to refill the store with a new inventory, because they are selling off all the inventory. So that means every 5 days, my 1 million inventory would be sold. Again, I need to buy one more 1 million after 5 days. Similarly, I have to do this cycle. If it is for 1 month, I have how many 5 days I have? I have 5 days. So I will be doing this cycle 6 times because I am able to sell my inventory every 5 days. So after fifth day, I need to refill the inventory. I need to put more milk, more bananas, more whatever I'm selling, wine bottles, alcohol, whatever I'm selling, cola bottles. Then after 5 days, again I'll be selling all of them, and then I have to put it refill it again. So for a given month, I have to do this 6 times because 6 times 5, 30 days. Is this making sense? Any questions? Okay, so this 1 million inventory that I need to have it for 5 days, I assumed I make 5% margin. So that's a margin, net profit margin I'm making out of that 1 million. So what would be the 5% of 1 million Danish krone? 10% is 100,000, right? 5% is simple. You just off the 100,000, it's 50,000 Danish krone. So what does it mean? In every 5 days, out of this 1 million, if I'm making 5% margin, 50,000 comes as a profit for me. Does this make sense? So
Yes.
so that cycle 50,000 for every week, and I can do that for 6 weeks. So after 1 month, I am making 300,000 profit. Is this making sense?
Yeah.
So basically, after first week, I get 50K. Second week, another 50K. Third week, another 50K. Likewise, I get 650,000. So if you multiply 6 times 50,000, you get 300,000. Okay. So by making, but this 1 million, I can reuse it, right? After 5 days, see, customers are paying you immediately. When you check out from the grocery store, you pay the money immediately. Okay. So that money that you are paying is part of this 1 million inventory that you bought it from the shop. So that 1 million, I'm using multiple cycles. So I put 6 weeks here. So this is first, this is second, this is third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. So this 1 million, I used it first week, and then I can use the same 1 million for second week. I use the same 1 million for third week, fourth week, and fifth week, sixth week. Out of this, each week I get 50K here. Here I got 50K, 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 so and so. But this 1 million is again reused every week because this is the working capital that I have it in my business to run this one store, because one store, this single store required a 1 million of inventory every time.
But uncle,
Hmm.
but if you're paying that 1 million over and over again, how will you earn money?
Yeah, that's the profit, 5% margin I'm making. So Arla bottle, which I'm selling in my store, you may be paying 10 crore or 15 crore, whatever the price. Out of that 15 crore, 5% is my profit as a store owner. That's what the net profit margin means. That's the margin. So I simply took 1 million, 5% of 1 million is 50,000 crore. That's my profit. So
Uh,
as a store manager, I'm getting 5% profit margin. Uh, so another way to look at it is, let's assume um, you increase the inventory by 200,000. What would be your profit? Let's assume you able to sell it every 5 weeks with 5% margin.
2 million?
No, 5% margin. So you have inventory of 2 million, 5% of 2 million, 10% of 2 million is 200,000. Half of 200,000 is 100,000. So you make 100,000 every week as a profit, and you have 6 weeks. So you make 600,000 profit. But the thing is, you need to understand the store is located in a given town and the number of people live in that town is limited. The consumption of a human being is limited. He can't drink all of a sudden 12 bottles of cola per a week versus whatever 6 bottles he was consuming before, right? So just increasing inventory to 200,000, I don't think you would going to make mm, that profit of 100,000, because uh, the business model of retail store is pointed to the physical location of the town, and in the physical location there are limited people who lives on that town, and they people have a limited consumption capacity, right? So that's something you need to logically think through and make a decision how much inventory you have to keep it for your store. So there is a sweet spot. You should not go too much, you should not go too low. So you have that, you would know only after you ran the business for some years. Okay. Questions? Any Arish, you have a question?
No.
Okay. So in short summary, Rima have 100,000 1 million inventory. They have a turnaround cycle of 5 days, 5% margin. After 1 month they have 300,000 profit. Okay, so literally what does it mean? 1 million made them 300,000 after 1 month. What is the what does you understand from this? So basically your 1 million. Okay, can you still see my screen? I'm getting a error.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
we can see your screen.
Okay, so this 1 million working for me six times in a month, making 50K. So I'm making 300,000 with 1 million inventory. So let's take an example of another business. I'm just putting Netto as a name because you are familiarized. I don't know these are, because Netto is not a, both of these companies are not public listed companies, so I would not be able to access their numbers from any screener. So this is just my um, it's my numbers, it's not the real numbers of Netto. Okay, so fixed costs, again similar. Netto has a similar I would say similar uh, Netto has uh, similar 1 million inventory, and they are have similar 5% margin. So when you look at until here, both Netto and Rima has similar 1 million inventory, 1 million inventory, 5% margin, 5% margin. But now, because the customer experience, there are not many options in Netto, the way they are organized, it's not clean. Some customer doesn't like to go there. So because of that, their inventory turnaround cycle is 10 days. Okay, so that means every 10 days they are able to sell all their existing inventory, and then they bring the new inventory. Whereas Rima, their inventory turnaround cycle is 5 days. So this every 5 days they are able to sell all their inventory, whereas Netto they are able to sell it for 10 days. Again, the reasons being that not many customers are walking into Netto and they don't feel their experience is not that good, quality of the goods are not good. Whatever the reason, Netto has a longer turnaround cycle, 10 days. Can you see the ripple effect of this? Just Netto has 5 days more turnaround cycle. Let's see how the numbers would turn out for them. Okay. So now, how many cycles they can do per month? 10 days means we have 10 days per month, 10, 10, 10. So they do 3 cycles, and every cycle they make 50,000 profit. So they are making only 150,000 profit margin now, comparing to Rima, where they were making 300,000 profit per month. Can you see the difference? Because the turnaround cycle increased to 10 days, Netto able to turn the inventory every 10th day, 10 days. So they have 10 days in a month. So every 10 days they make 5% net profit. So 1 million 5% is 50,000. So 3 times 50,000 is 150,000. So after 4 weeks, Netto is making 150,000 as a net profit out of 1 million inventory they have, versus Rima for the same 1 million inventory they are making 300,000 net profit. So that's the difference between, one's simple turnaround cycle changes to the net profit of the business. Is this making sense? Any questions? No questions? Okay. So what are we observing from these two scenarios? So you have one business who is able to sell more goods in 5 days, versus another business, Netto, where they able to sell similar goods, but they are taking longer time. That means their 1 million inventory is sitting in store shelves, consuming store space, electricity. You need to put freezers on, so power and everything. Whereas Rima, the items in Rima, they are able to do it every 5 days. So they are not sitting 10 days in the shelves. They are going out to the customer fridge or refrigerator or home, and then it's been consumed. So Rima is able to sell more items in a short cycle. That means their working capital and the profits are better, almost 50% better. If you see 150,000 versus 300,000, they are literally making 100%, sorry, not 50, 100% more profit than Netto, when you look at from these numbers. Now, this has a ripple effect. So if I am a supplier for both Rima and Netto, assume I am a Coca-Cola bottler who sells Coca-Cola tins, bottles, everything to both Rima and Netto. For me, I want to sell more. That's my business, right? Coca-Cola or Arla milk. If I'm a Arla milk producer, I want to sell more milk. Okay, Rima or Netto, Fotex, whoever comes to me, I just want to sell more milk, more cola. Okay, so when Rima guy comes and buys almost 3 times more than Netto, whom do you think I like more?
The Rima guy.
Yeah. Why do you think I like Rima guy versus Netto guy?
Because he's spending more on your products.
Exactly. So if you are a Rima owner and you are buying, this is one store, right? Assume you have 100 stores, 1,000 stores. So you have a bargaining power. Go back to business model. So let me show you the business model. I have to remove this every time. So if you look at the business model here, now my supplier Cola or Arla, I have better bargaining power here if I am a Rima guy, because I'm selling more of your products. So I go to the supplier and tell them, hey, I'm selling more of your products. Let's discuss the margins or credit terms. Okay. What do you what I mean by margins? So before, if Cola is giving me, let's say 2% profit margin, I will ask him, hey, can you give me 2.5? Because I am selling more of your products. If I don't want to give the, if I am a Cola supplier, I would say, no, I can't give you 2.5 because I know, I trust my brand. I know I can sell Cola. Even if it's not in your store, I can sell it somewhere else. So then, as a Rima shop owner, you'll ask him, okay, instead of giving me more profit margin, give me credit terms. Whatever the inventory I buy from you, I won't pay you immediately on the day you supply to me. I'll ask for 1 month credit terms. 1 month credit term means basically I'm asking Cola guy to knock on my door after 1 month of delivering the goods. So if he supplied goods today, he should come back for a bill on 19th December, 1 month after that. So what is that I am doing this 1 month with that inventory? I would sell it and I'll make it a profit. So it's called bargaining power, and it's called supplier credit terms. So basically, because Rima is able to sell more, they have better power with suppliers. So Rima can go and negotiate with suppliers and negotiate better credit terms. So let's assume Rima got 30 days credit term. Okay, so I painted a scenario here just to see how the numbers look when you have this. Okay, so let's clean up here. So because Rima is able to sell more goods within 6 weeks, with 6 cycles in a month, and suppliers gave them 30 days credit terms. Basically, suppliers is not asking them to pay money from the day they delivered. They come after 30 days to collect their money. They deliver the goods today, but they come after 30 days. That's what it means. Suppliers give 30 days credit term. In other situation, do you think Netto guys have any power to deal with their suppliers?
No.
No, because because they are not selling the products as much as Rema is selling.
Exactly. So basically, if a Netto guy shows up in my doorstep as a Cola distributor or Arla distributor, I would not be giving any credits to him. In fact, I'm worried the inventory that I put it on his store, would he able to sell it or not? Of course, I get the money on the day one, so I should not be worried. But in general, I would not be giving any credit terms for Netto because he's not able to sell more, and Netto doesn't have. So basically, you don't get any credit. Okay. So now look at this situation, how this would change the numbers now. Okay. So now all of a sudden, we have uh, we don't need to put Rima doesn't need to put 1 million because they got it for credit. You remember I told you suppliers give 30 days credit. All the inventory that is sitting in the Rima store now is on credit, 30 days credit. So they don't need to invest 1 million. Whereas Netto guy, he did not got any credit. So he has to put 1 million from his pocket, and then that generates money in 3 weeks. Um, so now, because Rima has better selling power, now suppliers, the REMA suppliers literally funding the working capital required for REMA. So you remember in the previous scenario, REMA need 1 million working capital for keeping the inventory, but now that that is supplied by suppliers. Suppliers are funding the whole inventory. So that means REMA business owner can take out the 1 million that was stuck in the inventory before and use it somewhere else. Whereas Netto guy, he would never able to take out that 1 million because it always required to run his business because he is not getting the credit terms. Okay. So another huge benefit for Rima is he is making 300,000 literally on the amount that the supplier is funding. So he is not putting his own money 1 million that is funded by suppliers. On that 1 million that is funded by suppliers, he is literally making 300,000 profit. So it's money out of no invested money. It's called negative working capital. So basically, you are making money based on the money provided by the suppliers because suppliers are funding your business now. So imagine you have a business where you don't need to put money, your suppliers are funding your working capital. Isn't it a great business where you don't need to put your own money and then your suppliers are funding your inventory and they are helping you to. It's because you are able to sell more goods. Suppliers wants to sell more goods, hence suppliers are taking a risk of funding you because it's also in the interest of suppliers to sell more. So this is called win-win relations. So win supplier is winning and also the business or owner also winning. Is this making sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So so um, so in a matter of 4 months, so he's now maybe first month he has to they supply the 1 million, then he makes the 300,000 and so now his 1 million is free. So what Rima guy can do, so let's assume both are expanding, Rima and Netto both are competitors and they are expanding. So I assumed 10% growth, so they are growing at 10%. So when I say they are growing at 10% means, let's say if they have 10 stores, they have to open one store every year. So assume they have 10 stores and 10 million. Mm, okay, so if they had 1 million in each store, if they have 10 stores, they have now 10 million freed up from the working capital. So now they have 10 million to invest it for the future growth because each store they freed up 1 million because suppliers are funding the suppliers gave the 30 days credit cycle, so that 1 million is freed up. So now because they have 10 stores, they have 10 million sitting in a bank for the future growth. And let's assume they are growing at 10%. Stores doesn't grow 50% because it's well matured market, because literally stores are in all the towns. It's very difficult to grow 40% every year. So let's assume they grow 10%. So they need to open one store every year. So first year, one store, then you have 11 stores. Next year, again, 10%, you need to open 1.1, something. So they have to open one store every year with a 10% growth. And let's assume they need 5 million to open a store. Literally they need to find a space then for renting out, and then they have to pay the advance to the owner who owns the space, and then they have to put up whole furniture in the store, lighting, all the machinery, everything. Let's assume they need 5 million to open one store. For Netto also it costs the same. But that 5 million funding is coming from where? The free up capital from the working capital. They had 10 million, right? So they can Rima guys can use the 5 million from that 10 million. So they don't need to borrow money because now their internal accruals, we call it as internal accruals in finance world. So internal accruals means it's a money piled up by the business over the time. So money generated by the business over the time. So Rima doesn't need any extra money because they freed up 10 million from their working capital. That 10 million can be used for the future growth, and they need to grow at only 10%, and that is 5 million to open one store. So they still have some muscle to grow further if they want to grow, because they're spending 5 million, they still have 5 more million left. But look at the Netto situation here. They have 10 stores, but they have no cash because their working capital still required 1 million for each stores. 10 stores, their 10 million is still stuck in the business. They can't take out that from the business because they have 10 days cycle, and the suppliers are not giving any credit terms. And now Netto also want to grow along with Rima because they are competitors. They see Rima is opening a store every 10% every year. So Netto also ambitious. So Netto CEO also ambitious, and um, they go and expand um, business at 10%. Now to expand, he need 5 million. Where do you think he'll get the 5 million from? He doesn't have any free cash, so he need
So
to, yeah, he need to borrow from
that
bank, or he need to go to investors and tell some story that they invest more money into the business. If you are investor of business, would you invest in Netto or would you invest in Rima?
Rema.
Yeah.
Rima.
So that's how you should differentiate the businesses. When you look at the business, this is how this is the narrative the numbers tells you. So you need to understand the business model. You need to see their working capital or inventory cycle. So I'll show you two real world businesses now. I guess you understood the logic, right? So this can happen in multiple years. Imagine what would be Rima situation after 5 years. They will get more bargaining powers because they opened more stores. They go to suppliers again. Hey, we used to sell, 100,000 cola bottles last year. Now we are able to sell 150,000. So let's discuss the bargaining power, the new terms. How much credit would you give? Now I would ask, okay, instead of 30 days, let's think about 45 days. Do you see the logic? This is how the great businesses, good businesses get better and then they become great. Whereas the bad businesses get worse and then they bankrupt because they ambitiously expanded, but they did not have a better control over the business. These are the businesses where CEOs gets more money, but the investors lose, and then they eventually bankrupt. And these are the businesses where CEOs may be making less money, but investors makes more money over the time because businesses is doing good over the time. So see, it's the same industry, same grocery retail store. It's the same look and feel when you walk into the store, but the numbers telling you different story. That's a reason if you observe. But I'll tell you another reason why Rima does better than Netto as on we learn more. But this is one way of looking at things when you look at the numbers. Okay, so let's look at the real businesses now, and I'll show you this. Okay, so let me. So DMart is one such business. So let's look at the DMart numbers. So DMart in share market traded as a Avenue Supermarket. So this is the name of the company, DMart is their store name, but in the stock market, it's traded as Avenue Supermarkets Limited. Okay. So I'm on the screener and I will show you. If you look at ratios, inventory days, can you see inventory days? 30 days, 36 days. So whole inventory, they are able to, sell it in 36 days. Okay. And working capital days going up. That's not looking good, but it could be because they came up with the new stores. New stores initially need more working capital. Once they establish the new stores in the new town, then it will reduce. So this, and then they have a return on capital employed. They have better numbers. So literally, Avenue Supermarket, DMart able to they are able to sell all their inventory with between 30 to 36 days over the years from 2011 to 2012. You can see it here, inventory days. Okay. I'll take another example, shopper stop. I don't know if you shopped in this shop. When you are in India, you will find this shopper stop in any big malls. In Hyderabad, you find it in Inarbit Mall and any big malls if you go. So let's look at they are not into grocery, they sell clothes, but let's look at their numbers. So ratios, inventory days. In 2011, they had inventory days of 64 days. That is 2 months, literally 2 months. But today, March 2022, some months ago, look at the inventory days, 244 days. Literally, these guys can't able to sell their inventory for 244 days. How much it would be in months? So you just 244 divided by 30 days. So 8 months. 8 months, their inventory is sitting in the shelf, consuming the floor space and the workers who are working in the store. We have to pay the bills for them, but I am not able to sell the bloody goods, for 8 months. That's a wrong business. It's really wrong in that sense. You are into the retail business, but you are not able to sell your inventory for 8 months. Versus Avenue Supermarket, DMart, they are able to sell it in 30 days, 30 to 35 days. So that's how you need to look at the numbers, understand the story behind it when you analyze the business. Okay, I just thought you can do the similar exercise for Walmart. I also have Walmart here. So you can go to any business. You can see the similar for any other businesses. Look at Apple, how fast they are able to sell their inventory. Look at Tesla, how fast they are able to sell their inventory, etc. IKEA is not a public listed company, so you can't see that. But this is how you would look at this. Yeah,
Okay.
Arush. Yeah.
So if you go to shop, that Indian, yeah, that one, and does it mean that it's bad to buy clothes or whatever from that company, or is it, or that shop, or is it just that they can't, you shouldn't invest in that company?
Exactly. It's great for the buyers because they can't able to sell it for 8 months. They give you better discounts. So if you are a buyer, end customer buying, doing shopping, it may be great for a buyer to shop it in this shop because they have inventory. They can't able to sell it. What they do, they give better discounts. But if you are an investor, it's a really bad business to invest in.
Okay,
So
thank
yeah. So any business, you need to look it from the consumer point of view, supplier point of view, and also investor point of view. Even the supplier probably in a bad situation, right? He can't able to supply more because these guys are not able to sell whatever they are been supplying. So even suppliers. So that's a reason you can see that in the numbers. I'll show you here. How do I stop this? So if you see return on capital employed, it was positive in 2011 because they had low inventory ratios, but now it's literally it was negatives. They are losing money. So and then now some positive, but this return on capital employed is less than fixed deposit. In India, if you put this money into FD, you get at least 7%, 6 to 7%. So it's less than fixed deposit. So basically, this guy should not expand or invest further capital. Either they close it or they don't know how to run this business. Okay. Any questions before we close? Just to reflect on the thoughts we discussed, and this is how we would dig into the numbers and understand the stories behind the numbers. Okay. Any questions before we close? If
Yeah.
not, yeah, go
Do
ahead.
we have any homework?
Yeah, you can look at any of business. Maybe I can write down. You can look at the Apple, and uh, mm, maybe what would be other. I'm just thinking. Just maybe you can look at GN and Nova Nordisk, and there is one other company called Ambu. I don't know. It's a Danish company. I'll put it in the chat. Let's look at those numbers. Businesses look at their inventory days, how long they are keeping, and what is their working capital situation. So let's look at that. Okay, thank you, and I wish you a good weekend.
Thank you, Uncle. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.